Thank you so much for having me. Jared, thank you so much for selecting my session. This is one of the most, probably the most practical session that I have in my portfolio. So not as fun as some other ones. Looking forward to next year. I'll tell you a little bit about me, and my clicker's not working from here. Right. Okay, have to do it the old-fashioned way. So my name is Natalie Hylton. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm a little bit foreign. So I am originally from Ukraine, and I lived in England for 15 years, then immigrated to the US about 6 or 7 years ago. I'm basically going around the world collecting passports. I recently became the US citizen as well, so I should update that flag now. Should be triple. I am a mother of 3 and stepmother of 2. So we have a full house at home, lots of people to practice the new skills on. And I am one of the imposters in the IT world. I hate that word, but it's kind of funny because, I fell my backside backwards. I'm trying not to swear since I'm on camera. Into the IT world when I immigrated to the UK, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do this for like a couple of months until I find a proper job. And 20 years later, I'm still here. Majority of my career was in infrastructure, project and program management, the kind of stuff where we physically forklifted the servers and drove them on a truck to another data center. Yay! Reconnected them and prayed that they work, which they did, otherwise I wouldn't have a career. And then about 5 years ago, so I've always been passionate about helping people become the best that they can be. So I kind of drifted towards talent development, and this is where I am now. So I work for JP Morgan, and I am a product manager / program manager, depending which mindset you're in, for a series of trainings and learning interventions for about 100,000 people in IT and operations. This session today came about because my boss and I kind of went to too many bad meetings. And I run this content in JP Morgan as well. And they were bad meetings run by people who had really decent tenure and VP titles and sometimes ED titles. And those meetings could still have been better. So we thought, you know what, we'll do it. Because, let's face it, we all could do a little bit better at meetings, and some of us pretty much suck. The reason we suck at meetings, one reason is that we may be new to it, but not many of us are new. So the biggest reason why we're not good is because we don't take care to invest the time and effort into the preparation. So what I'll talk about today is some prep that we need to do to be effective at our meetings. And hopefully that will be quick, because most of it will be just reminding the due diligence that we need to do, and you already know it. And then we'll talk about how to manage those situations that may be tricky during meetings, like how to make sure that you engage everyone, how to make sure that everyone speaks their mind honestly, how to make sure that you can manage those difficult situations when people are either talking too much or interrupting others or being too negative, etc., etc., etc. So managing difficult situations will be kind of closer to the end of this session. Right. First things first, since I can hear you, I would like to hear what are some of your frustrations with the meetings. Just shout it out loud. Getting off track, yep. Sorry? Length without information, okay. No agenda. Yep. No clear goal. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll talk about all of that. Oops, wrong.
No text for people who couldn't attend.
Yes, nothing for people who couldn't attend. So normally I also do it through the Menti, but since I was scared of using anything related to Wi-Fi. I just kind of took a screen print from one of my previous sessions, and as you can see, you were pretty much spot on, and these are the very common frustrations that other people feel as well during the meetings. So what we'll do today is we'll talk about some techniques that we can use to prepare and facilitate effective meetings, and then we'll talk about some skills that an effective meeting leader will need to develop in order to make sure that their meetings are effective and productive. And the whole goal of this learning experience is to make sure we have fewer meetings by making the meetings we do have effective and productive. To make it memorable, I decided to introduce it as a framework of 5 Ps. So purpose, people, preparation, process, and product. And to figure out what to do for each of these aspects, we can just ask ourselves 1 or 2 very simple questions. I mean, it doesn't mean that they have simple answers, but the questions are simple. For example, in the purpose, what is our desired outcome? What do we want to achieve? So one of you mentioned that your frustration during the meetings is that they don't have a purpose defined, and that's true, and that's one of my frustrations too. We seem to have an agenda, and we go through it, and then we realize we didn't actually achieve what we wanted to achieve. So, purpose, and how we, what's our desired outcome or the purpose, and how will we measure success? How will we know that we have achieved what we wanted to achieve? In people, we are thinking, of course, who should be involved, and what's important to them? Like, what kind of things, motivations can we appeal to make sure that they are interested in being an effective participant in this meeting? Now, preparation. How much time do we need? What do we need to do up front? What do we need to prepare for the actual meeting? And process is how do we run it? How do we make sure that people have the means and the desire to effectively contribute during the meeting? And in the product, how we record and deliver our outcomes, and how do we know that we have achieved our purpose? So, again, I would like to hear from you. Why do we have meetings? To align, okay? To determine the next steps. Yep.
Sharing information and collaborating on specific scenarios.
Okay, share information and collaborate on specific scenarios. So let's talk about sharing information. When is information, or what kind of information is the information that needs to be shared in a meeting, and what kind of information can be shared in an email or a broadcast, or maybe even collected through a survey?
Information that requires concurrent input from multiple sources is not suited.
Correct, okay, so when you need information from multiple sources.
You want to demonstrate something.
Demonstrations, okay.
I'm on call. On-call handoffs, you need to make sure that the person receiving that information is
Okay. Yeah, handoffs. Thank you. Yeah, so normally if it's something that requires interaction between people, either during or after the meeting, then it's a meeting. If it's something that you just disseminate, broadcast, that's an email. If it's something that you want to collect, that's a survey or something like that. Typically, informational meetings that require to be meetings are the meetings where you disseminate the type of information that will result in some kind of emotional response from people. Like if you are talking about a big org change and you know that people will be potentially concerned about their jobs or how they will fit into the new organization, then you get that meeting organized and give people the platform, the opportunity to either voice their concerns or ask questions, and of course you will answer and hopefully address those concerns. So, let's talk about purpose first. What's wrong with this picture?
unhelpful.
Yeah, unhelpful, for sure. Why is it unhelpful?
Vague.
Very vague. I have tons of invites like this in my inbox. in my calendar. Like I meet someone at even a conference or something like, internal event. Oh, it will be great to meet up. Yeah, 2 months later, I forgot who this person is, and I have this vague invite, like to discuss engagement. In what? There's one managing director in JP Morgan who said, I do not respond to invites that do not have a statement of purpose and an agenda. Just reject them straight away. Tiffany, these applause are for you. So yes, absolutely, we need to figure out how to define a statement of purpose. And to do that, we just answer a couple of questions, like what's our desired outcome? Number one, right? What do we want people to think, feel, or do? That's if we want to go a little bit deeper. And how will we measure the success if we want to be really, really, really like ninjas at it? But as a minimum, figure out what our desired outcome is. So here are some examples. We will not go through all of them, but I'm happy to share these slides. I just need to figure out how. And probably our wonderful tech support and maybe Ian or maybe someone else will figure. Discord thread. Okay, so I will do it there. Right, so desired outcomes. Can someone who can actually see what's written there read it out, or is it too small?
Ensure that all participants have a clear understanding of the new org structure and the timeline for changes. Provide an opportunity to provide feedback and raise concerns. Address and resolve any questions or concerns.
Thank you very much. So then there's also a statement there, what we want to make sure that participant think, feel, or do. And there's a statement of thank you. And hopefully this makes sense. The second example is for a decision-making meeting, and decision-making and planning, I think. And the last one is for brainstorming, ideation type of meeting. So I'll just give you a second to read through those. Okay, now let's say we've figured out what our purpose is. Oh, sorry, this is the slide I added yesterday, so I forgot about it. So I made some more examples that are more pertinent to our meetings in the technology world, right? So how is the purpose for code review session? Ensure the quality and maintainability of our recent software updates. Identify any issues or improvements in the code submitted, enhance coding practices among team members, and ensure alignment with project standards and guidelines. So pretty much what we do during code reviews. There's an example for technology roadmap updates and security compliance sync-ups, etc., etc. So again, I'm not going to read through those. You will have them on the slides. And another question. What's wrong with this picture? Thank you. Multiple time zones. Absolutely. What else? Too many invitees. And what, sorry?
Too many people in the
Yep.
section.
Yeah, too many people invited as required, for sure. By the way, if any of you are working in a multicultural or geographically dispersed teams, how do you deal with like team meetings that are just, yeah?
We have
People across like Europe and West Coast U.S., and so we just have a weekly meeting at like noon Eastern time. So it's
Okay.
and not on a Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you accommodate each other basically, but you still get together in the same meeting. Okay.
we have rounds done on call schedules, so we have meetings for the overlap between EU, US, and then the US hands off to
Yeah.
et cetera. We also try to make sure that any meetings that are like scheduled one-offs are recorded and that recording is made available to the entire team.
Nice. I like,
Try to make sure
yeah.
we're sharing slides and notes taken asynchronously if we have to.
Thank you. I like the recording idea, because my team is everywhere between Tokyo and, Hong Kong, Singapore, Philippines, India, Poland, UK, and then Eastern time zone and Central time zone. Thankfully, I don't have anyone on the West Coast, but it's a mess anyway. So I run 2 meetings now, and one of them is 11 p.m. my time, so not great fun. Okay, so we need to make sure that we invite as few people as possible for effective decision making, and also to respect their time. And of course, consider the timings and when it's convenient for people. So here are some other things that, or some other questions that we need to answer in order to make sure that we involve people in the right way. And I use the word involve purposefully, because not everyone who contributes to your meeting needs to be invited to it. Some people can contribute before or after, and that's okay. They will probably be happy not to actually be invited. So the questions we need to answer are: who cares? Who has expertise, the knowledge? Who is the decision maker? And sometimes decision makers, again, may need to be involved outside of the meeting when you've already collected all the information that you needed for them. So the next question is: who must be there versus just being involved outside of the meeting? And who needs to be informed of the results? And then we consider their communication preferences, like which people specifically need more data, for example, before they make any decision or make any contribution, which people need way more time than you plan if you decide to disseminate some information during the meeting. Maybe some people actually need time to think through it before they can voice their opinion. I've been to a few meetings where the meeting is 30 minutes and they give you a 7-page document and want your opinion on it. Maybe I'm reading slowly. I don't know, I need more time. So considering any pre-work that needs to be done is definitely a good idea. And of course, considering the WIFM, what's in it for me. And as a minimum, it will be, you will not need to come to another meeting if we do this one right. That's a minimal WIFM. But then you can consider what outcomes are beneficial for these meeting participants as well, and just make sure that you at least kind of make sure that they understand that, and address any concerns that they may have up front, if you know them, of course. So we decided on the purpose, we decided on who we are going to invite. Here's our preparation. A few things, again, to decide on before we do anything. So timing, how much notice do you need to give people, even to just get the time slot in their calendar? How long should the meeting be? And I know that the more common concern now is that the meetings are too long, but we've gone the other way now, and I've noticed that a lot of our meetings are now too short. Maybe not a lot, but a few for sure. Like we tend to meet for 20, 25 minutes normally. If it's longer than that, it's already a little bit unusual. And what I've noticed that some kind of meetings that require bigger discussion and then decision making, they are still scheduled as a short kind of 25-minute get together, and then we end up reconvening again, and we lose momentum, and we have to lose maybe 10 minutes at the next meeting to kind of recap what we've done and decided in the previous one, and then kind of. So just making sure that we are certain how long we want to take to kind of achieve what we want to achieve from that meeting. So notice period, duration, time zones, talked about that. Format and technology. So another thing I've experienced a few times now is that we're introducing some new technology, some kind of cool collaboration tool to use during the meeting, and half of the participants have never seen it before. So we spend 10 minutes registering, creating our accounts, then figuring out how to work with that tool. Time wasted, people frustrated. Sometimes we abandon that tool after playing around with it for 10 minutes and just go back to some more traditional things like typing in the chat. So again, if you're planning to use some kind of technology, some kind of tool, make sure people are familiar with it, have access, have accounts, basically know what to do, and have the ability to effectively contribute during the meeting. Pre-work, of course, everyone hates it, but sometimes it's critical to have an effective meeting. So with pre-work, we have to be very careful with WIFM. So what's in it for me? Why do you need to do the pre-work? And again, it may be, as a minimum, we don't have to reconvene again because everyone came unprepared. And be shameless about reminding people. You know, the squeaky wheel gets oiled, so if your reminder pops up on the top of their mailbox a couple of times, they're more likely to actually do that pre-work than if you are shy and waiting for them to do the due diligence. And then, of course, communication. So sending invites. Placeholders are great if the entire kind of information set is not ready yet for the proper invite. Placeholders are great to make sure that you block the time in the calendar, but I'm sure you know that. And then in the invite, all the information that people need, including if it's a physical room, map perhaps, where to go, how to access it, all the Zoom or whatever other dial-in details you have, including codes, etc., and agenda and the statement of purpose must be there as a minimum. Another thing is roles and responsibilities, like at least a brief statement of expectations from people. Like I expect everyone to contribute in this section, for example. If you ask somebody to co-facilitate a section with you, it would be great if you kind of speak to them beforehand. I've seen it happen when people didn't, like, oh, I want you to run this one. And people are like deer in the headlights. Like, what? Okay. Yeah, but people need to prepare. So, and the pro tip here is that, of course, everyone should come prepared, not just the leader. If everyone's prepared, you have a more effective meeting. Right, summary. So all of the things that you need to do before the meeting. So statement of purpose and agenda, decide who needs to be involved and how, prepare a meeting plan, all the logistics, etc., put it in the invite, send the invite, i.e. communicate to the participants. So now the fun part. I'm excited about this process. So we've got people into the meeting. Now we are in it. How do you normally start the meeting? Memes, okay, I love that. What else?
Waiting 5 minutes for everyone to get
Yes, been there. Okay, what else? Does anyone do icebreakers? Icebreak? Oh, sorry?
asking, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, so basically, tech check, yeah, lots of kind of logistical, organizational moments. I would definitely recommend starting every meeting with some kind of icebreaker moment. It can be very, very short, like 2 minutes maybe. And I used to work for someone who started our day, well, we had every other day stand-ups for 15 minutes, and we still started with that dad joke from her calendar. It was really cool. And I can actually share an article on the use of humor in meetings, like how helpful it is to put people at ease, to kind of make them open up, basically create the atmosphere of trust and kind of relax people as well. So it's really cool if you can start it with a joke or an icebreaker.
Our meetings often have a self-deprecating vibe at the start of the tech setup of like, all right, let me take a sec, record, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, people for coming.
Yeah, we thank people for coming. We appreciate their time, of course, and at the beginning and at the end for sure. So the main thing is to make people comfortable, like with our introductions and the beginning and everything. Then set the path. What it means is just set expectations. So make sure people know what's going to happen. And if it's your daily stand-up, you probably know what's going to happen because it's the same every day. But if it's something very different from what you normally do, or lots of people who have not seen each other, like let them know how you're going to run it. For example, it can be, so we will speak for, let's say, 30 seconds, and then we will pass the baton or whatever to the next person. We will take turns, or we will spend no more than 15 minutes discussing this section. If it requires further discussion, we will kind of delay it to another time or something like that. So just people know what's happening. Yes?
I have a question about this. How much of this would you say, like, if you had to, like, do a rough ratio, how much of setting expectations should be, like, a section within the meeting versus you should have already done some of that in, like, the invite?
In the invite, really depends on the meeting, so it's hard to just give a one-fits-all answer. I would set as much expectation as possible in the invite, but I would repeat it all at the beginning of the meeting as well, because some people don't read invites, let's just be honest, and some people forget, so reset. And also, you can also reset the expectations during the meeting. Like when something goes the wrong way, people start behaving in the way you don't want them to behave, you can always reset expectations or set a new expectation. Right, what do we have here is maximizing contributions. So asking very specific questions, for example, open-ended questions, not like, does anyone have any questions? No, what questions do you have is already a better version of it. Naming people by name, and if you don't want to like put someone on the spot and say, hey, Lisa, what do you have to say about this? You can name 3 people, like say, Prasad and Jill, I know that you worked on this type of projects before. What's your opinion? And we'll actually talk about a couple of very specific ways of how to make sure that people are engaged, how to maximize those contributions. And that's the process that, for some reason, is called mining for conflict. It's not like we are trying to create a conflict. It's just mining for honest opinions. That's what it means. Being inclusive. Sometimes it's hard because some people are more outgoing and more loud, and some people are shyer and tend to sit back. And you probably know this, like if you've stayed quiet through like 20 minutes or so, then it's just very convenient to continue staying quiet and not saying anything, even if you know something that everyone will benefit from. It's just that, mental state when you don't want to intervene anymore. So making sure that people are engaged is critical, and you can do it in multiple ways. So maybe let's hear from you first. How do you engage people in the meetings normally? Like making sure that everyone can contribute.
I know my manager tends to call on me specifically. Like,
Right.
any questions? No? You've always got a question. Come up with one.
All right, so calling someone by name, okay?
It'd be an icebreaker for questions, but like if I threw out a random question, other people will ask afterwards. So.
Do you use things like round robin? When, no? Okay, that's one of the good ways to make sure that everyone speaks. And also if you say like alphabetically, or I will call on people in the order they appear in my Zoom screen, then at least they know it's like they are not called out first or second specifically for any reason other than they're on the Zoom screen there. There's another one called popcorn effect, where like I would like to hear an opinion of absolutely everyone here. Feel free to speak up when you're ready. And then, of course, the more kind of confident or maybe more extroverted people will jump in first, and then those who are shyer and need more time to kind of prepare their thoughts, they still know that they will need to jump in, but they have some time to think. Another way, if you are running the meeting with help of some kind of technology where you can contribute like digitally. You can also ask people to type or to put their statements in all at the same time, and then just quickly kind of go through them and see if you need to call out on anything specific, and maybe discuss those in more detail. Oh, sorry. So,
I was once in a leadership meeting where the senior leader was getting ready to tell us some stuff, and he said, mainly I'm here to answer questions, and if you don't ask me a question, I'm going to ask you a question. And it was like, I think everybody just thought, okay, go.
right. Okay, great. Excuse me. A great way, great trick, scare them into speaking.
Nice guy. It wasn't that.
Well, I'm joking, but it's an effective way of, of doing things. If you don't do what I asked, I may ask you in a different way that you may not like.
I've also had managers use anonymous polls to make sure everyone has an opportunity to express their opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for actually bringing it up. Definitely a really, really good thing to do. And we have a tool where we can call for anonymous information. When the topic you're discussing is sensitive, this is a great way to hear honest opinions. So, yeah.
Especially if it's pre-made answers, because open-ended typed answers, sometimes people will feel anxious, like, oh, what if they recognize my typing style? Or what if I
Yeah.
say something that only I know about? Whereas, like, just a yes or no, 1 to 5 scale.
Yeah.
Something simple.
It's like I filled in an employee opinion survey a couple of days ago, and I know that by the way I wrote it, everyone will know it was my statement. Okay, the next thing we do is acknowledge. Acknowledging people's time, people's effort, maybe their passion, whatever it is, acknowledging their contributions. Also, if they are speaking off topic, or like just contributing something that maybe is not helpful at this moment, at least acknowledging it and making sure that it's not forgotten, adding it to a parking lot or a backlog or whatever you may be using during the meeting, like, yeah, this is a great idea, or this is something worth discussing further, but not quite on topic today, let's put it in the parking lot. So doing that is an awesome thing, and in the end, we of course summarize. It's great to let people know that we are wrapping up, so like we'll just discuss this for another 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up and recap our next steps. So doing that helps people kind of gather their last-minute thoughts, last-minute contributions, and then you go through all the stuff that good meeting leaders do, like what we've decided. Here's what we have decided to do. Here are the action owners. Here are the deadlines, if you already agreed on setting them. Here are our steps, next step and next step after that. And thank you so much, and please feel free to come back to me. If anything comes to you after the meeting, please feel free to email me or or call me, and etc., etc. So again, leave the door open even when the meeting is closed. Any questions so far? Nope.
Another comment.
Uh-huh.
About the beginning of the meeting, a number of the meetings that I'm in, like every 2 weeks or something, they'll start with either a safety or culture moment, and they round robin who presents that.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, thank you. Sorry for my voice going. Oh my God. I hope it will last another 30 minutes. Okay, so the fun part. Now, some things we can do to mine for conflict. In other words, to make sure that people contribute their honest opinions on the topic. So one is to directly call on people by name. Like in this example, Sukrit, Lisa, what do you think about this? And asking open-ended questions. Again, powerful questions, like, how do you think this is going to improve our process? Or what do you think can be beneficial? What benefits will this change bring to our organization? Or something like that. Actively listening to people is also super helpful, of course. Rephrasing their statements. Like in this example, Yosvani, you look apprehensive. What are your thoughts? Oh, everyone says they agree. Everyone's nodding their heads, but I see your faces kind of look a bit concerned. So can you please share your thoughts? And asking for examples, like, hey, Oksana, you said that this never works. Can you please give me an example of when we implemented it and it didn't work? And, sorry, before I move on from this, I've added, I think, 12 slides yesterday to this presentation with a bunch of examples. But for now, do you have any questions around this? Or maybe suggestions, what else we can do? Or we'll move to, yeah?
I have had specific managers or like specific people, coworkers that were really productive if we intentionally set aside time where it's a one-on-one and we're just kind of like debating options and it doesn't matter which side you're like treating it as a let's explore all of the options, have one person present pros of this one and the other kind of try to poke holes in it.
Yeah. So,
You're treating it explicitly as a we're gathering information together rather than a I'm arguing for my side,
yeah.
you're arguing for your side.
So it's called playing devil's advocate, right? So sometimes, yeah, and one of my managers used to do that as well. Like, can you play devil's advocate here and see like what we are overlooking, what we are not considering? That's a really good idea. And also, yeah. If you also are familiar with the process of six, or the framework of 6 thinking hats, that's another great way to, but of course the entire room or your entire audience in the meeting will need to be familiar with that. And then you can say, hey, with my white hat on, blah, blah, blah. So that's a really good way, but I've only been in a situation once where basically in my team meeting, where the entire team went through that, so they knew what we were talking about. Otherwise, it's just not working. So, handling difficult situations. Again, situations are different and people are different, so there's no one-size-fits-all solution. But this is just a very, very basic framework, and then we'll go through some concrete examples, and maybe you'll have some examples too that we can discuss afterwards. So the skeleton approach is set ground rules, of course, especially if you know that the discussion or conversation is going to be heated, potentially. You can set those ground rules from the beginning. If not, and this situation arises during the meeting, you can always set those ground rules at that particular point in time. And you can reset them and add more rules as you go along. So one good way to handle kind of difficult comments is redirecting and reframing. For example, reframing, and we'll have tons of examples coming up. Reframing negative comments into positive, constructive ideas is a great way to do it. Gently redirecting people to the agenda if they are going off topic. Like, this is a great thing, and I think we need to discuss it a little bit further, but today we are talking about blah, 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 so let's just go back to the topic of our conversation. Using positive reinforcement works with children, works with adults. So when someone is displaying the behaviors that you want others to emulate, you just praise the hell out of them. Like, hey, thank you so much. This is such a great way to put it.
Random intermittent reward is the most effective way to train behavior in psychology.
Tell us more about it.
So basically, it's why gambling is so addictive. An inconsistent positive reaction to something you're doing makes your brain go, ooh, I should do that more, and encourages that behavior continuing. And it is the most effective for training most animals and also humans that we know of right now. Positive reinforcement is effective. Don't do it constantly because it kind of exhausts. But make sure that you're doing it somewhat regularly.
If you overdo it, it feels false after a while, so just finding that great balance between doing it enough but not too much is key.
Semi-consistently
Yeah, yeah. So limiting airtime is another way. So you create a rule. If someone's speaking too much, you create a rule that we can only, let's say, contribute one sentence or two. And then you pass the turn to another person. And it's in general a good idea to have kind of time limit set for your meeting, like agenda items or how much everyone speaks. And having somebody help you watch the time, or watch, how much each person contributes is a great thing too. If someone in the meeting can be your helper, so you can focus on just leading the conversation, that will be helpful as well. And of course, throughout all of this, we listen to understand, so this demonstrating empathy, because maybe there is a point to what people are saying, like someone is super negative and it's annoying, but what if there is a point to it? They're just framing it in such a way that annoys everyone. And another way is another thing is staying calm and patient. In other words, being emotionally intelligent through all of that, and making sure that you project that emotional intelligence on your audience. Involving the group. So there's nothing that works better than peer pressure sometimes. Like you can say, hey, what does everyone think about this statement or something like that, and just involve the group to, maybe they will support the speaker, who knows, maybe you are in the wrong. And if the situation is either getting too out of hand or what the conflict is about doesn't concern the entire group, then you can just suggest taking it offline and discussing outside of the meeting. Right. Now we have a bunch of examples. Sorry. Let me just try to make sure my voice stays. So, example number 1. Janie consistently dominates the discussion, leaving little room for others to contribute. What can you say to Jenny to make sure that she kind of stops doing that? Yes, my friend?
as a Jenny, remind me, hey, you've contributed a lot, maybe take a step back, redirecting to a text form, or like a, hey, good idea, write it up, we'll read it later, but this is not the forum for it. Having keywords or something, if it's a recurring problem and you know that person
Right.
is bad at noticing, having a, like, setting up a keyword or a phrase that's like, if I say this, you're listening for it, you're going to mute yourself for 5 minutes.
Okay, so warning the person beforehand. I like that. And of course, all the other things as well. An example here is kind of very similar to what you've mentioned first. So Jenny, thank you for your input. It's always valuable. But I like to hear from others, etc., etc. And yes, my friend?
To have a look on my face. I had a particular person who disrupted meetings all the time. Apparently, I had a look on my face that if I give that to her, she would stop. And I didn't do that for like years. It was
All right, so giving people the look.
on vacation.
Yeah.
They couldn't read it. It was
Yeah, giving people the look. It definitely helps when you already know those people and you can kind of pre-warn them, like, I'll give you a sign that you are overdoing it. Yes?
If you know going into the meeting that this person, that you have a person or persons who do this, but you're not close enough that you feel comfortable talking to them, one thing you can do is say, we're limited for time on this, so I'm going to ask for comments, but I am going to time this, and if someone's going a little long, I will interrupt you and just ask for other feedback so from everyone.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware. So set the next
So, thank you. Thank you for saying those words. So yes, you set expectations. What's going to happen if you keep over-talking? Keeping it consistent. Okay. Next example. Distracted by devices. Okay, this one's easy. You just, can tell everyone, hey, let's agree to keep devices off or on mute. And if you need to make an urgent call or whatever, you step outside, and that normally will kind of make sure people put them in their bags and pockets and don't look at them again. Okay, people come unprepared. How do you deal with that? How would you deal with that? You call the meeting, you send all the prep materials, pre-work, not done. You're sitting there and they're not prepared. What do you do?
Trying to reschedule.
Reschedule. Okay. Any other opinions? Yep. Yeah, reschedule is the best idea. Trying to kind of get the best out of it normally doesn't work, doesn't get the best. Unless you have no other option, like people flew in from overseas and you're sitting there and you have to persevere and go through it, then you just basically allocate time to go through the pre-work there and then.
If you have the time, being able to say, like, okay, especially if it's individual members and other members are prepared, reorganizing the schedule or having it be like, okay, we're going to focus on this other person now while we get set up.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, like, maybe go
Yeah.
back to
So depending on the situation, you can kind of manage those different circumstances, like when it's just individuals rather than the entire group. I started that specifically with that phrase to demonstrate empathy. So it's not like I'm telling you off for being unprepared. Well, I am, but I understand why you are not prepared because you have a lot on your plate. We have a lot to do. We may have, we receive lots of invites, etc. But to ensure that our meetings are productive, can we please commit to doing the pre-work and being prepared, etc., etc. Negativity. Carol frequently points out why ideas won't work, and it's disruptive and not good for the team morale. So what would you say to Carol? Right, so thank you, and do you have something positive to say? Right. Right, thank you.
So my work has a philosophy, and I have a personal philosophy of assume neutral and positive intent, where we, unless there's a boatload of evidence proving otherwise, start from assuming they have a reason for it, and that they're
Yeah.
intentionally being negative, maybe that their tone just doesn't match what they're thinking, or something similar, and asking for clarification or asking for further information as a starting point, and then if they are continuing to be negative, then you proceed to directly address that person.
Well, negativity is not necessarily like malignant. It's just how our brain works, right? This is annoying, so I'm gonna say it's annoying. We don't typically jump into positive thinking as a first thing. We have to train ourselves to reframe our thoughts into positive and constructive thoughts. This is more of an acquired skill.
And not take the other.
Absolutely. Right. So. Right. Thank you. So it's set expectation, ask people to suspend their disbelief. I love that phrase. And also redirect their train of thought into more positive kind of plane. Like what may work? How can we make it work? Yeah. How about interruptions? Right, and let me see, we still have some time. So interruptions. Here's Steve, who often interrupts everyone and disrupts the flow of the conversation. So what advice or what request will you have for Steve? Raise his hand, okay. Yeah.
Especially in Zoom, if you have someone like
Mute.
well, if you have a Zoom or it's people muted and you have one person unmuting people in turn, then that might
Yeah.
can make it
Okay, that's an option.
and enforce it in
Yeah.
a technological way as opposed to having
Yeah.
to rely on impulse control
And calling it out will not be a bad idea, in all honesty, because this is a disrespectful behavior. So also kindly mentioning that, hey, let's just make sure that, the other people finish their thoughts before we jump in. I know that you're really passionate about it, but let's make sure that you allow others to finish before jumping in. Off-topic comments. So here we can just ask to park them. Let's see what else we have. Reframing negative comments. Let's practice a little bit of that. So here's a lady with no name. Trying to integrate these systems is a waste of time. It's never going to work. What's a better way to say a similar thing?
These two systems don't have compatible integrations. This doesn't seem like this would be an effective use of our time.
Okay.
I would like to look into, we would either need a third system to do a translation step, or we might be better off maybe changing one of those systems.
Right.
And trying to integrate them together.
Right. So kind of saying that, yes, this is going to be very challenging, and let's look at alternatives, which might be easier. And I think I see a hand raised there. Thank you for being so polite. By the way, I can't see half of you because of the lights, so if you're raising your hands, just start speaking, because I can't see most of you.
Instead of reframing it as a this won't work, phrase it as a concern, as I see that you want to do this. This is why I'm concerned about doing it that way. How are we going to get around it? So if you don't have a solution, you don't think it's going to work, instead of saying this won't work, say why you don't think it will work and invite solutions from someone else so that they can explain why it will work.
Right. So at least if you are being negative about it, support it with data, right? Because I've seen it not working before, and this is why it didn't work, so we need to make sure that we kind of take it into consideration and look at other options or maybe other ways of making it work. Okay. Yeah, so basically give me more information because I've seen it not working before, but maybe we've missed something earlier.
I have a tendency to ask maybe questions as well, like, have you looked at this specific aspect? Like,
Right.
this specific aspect is a challenge or blocker? Asking, have you looked into this specific aspect and what is your plan, or do you have a plan to approach that? And they might go,
All right.
yeah, we did look into it, here's why it's not a relevant concern. Or they might go, let me get back to you on that.
Thank
And then
you.
come back to you later going, yeah, I think you're right.
We may need to team up for the next talk. See, when my throat goes, you can just take over and run it. Okay, so we have 8 minutes left. I still have some more examples there, but what we'll do is run to the last bit, which is very quick because we all know that this needs to be done. So this is just a reminder, when we're done with our meetings, we run it, we thanked our participants. What sometimes doesn't happen, people are not informed about the outcomes of that meeting, and they're just like, what are we going to do? We don't know what's happening now. Are we doing anything? Are we meeting more about it? But no information has come through. So capturing the outcomes and informing all people involved is very important. Those who were in the meeting, of course, they may have some memory of what happened and what you've decided, but those who contributed outside of the meeting or those who just needed to be informed, we need to make sure that we do inform them. And of course, we may inform people in different ways. Like those who are in the nitty-gritty of it, they may need more information. The senior stakeholders may just need a high level. Here's the decision we made. Here's how we're going to implement it. Here's the date we are targeting, something like that. If you want to, if you can, evaluate meeting effectiveness, like to what extent have we achieved what we set out to achieve and what else we need to do to make sure that we get it to 100%, perhaps. And of course, keeping records accessible somewhere is always a good idea. You never know when you need to come back to it. And keeping people informed of what's going afterwards, with all the next steps. And that's really it. So just quickly reminding you what we've learned. 5 Ps. What are the 5 Ps? Thank you. Purpose, people, preparation, process, product. So these are our 5 Ps. And what we use during the meeting to make sure that we engage participants effectively, things like active listening, open-ended questions, powerful questions, our empathy, emotional intelligence. We seek direct input from our participants by calling them by name. We make sure that we engage them by using things like round robin or any other methods that ensure everybody's contribution. And it was nice to meet you. I don't know if we have a few minutes for questions as well. Don't know if there are any questions from the queue.
Do you have any thoughts about or tips as to how to be a good contributor to meetings? A lot of meetings I don't actually run, but I'm expected to contribute a lot.
Okay, question to you. I believe in this room there's enough experience and expertise to solve any problem, by the way. So instead of me answering this question, what do you think? How do you ensure that you are an effective contributor? Come prepared, yep.
It depends on what type of contribution you talk about. Because if you talk about ahead of time, make sure that you're writing out the information, make sure you're having clear documentation or text, check in with the person running it if you've been asked ahead of time. If you're just a participant that you want to be a contributor, take notes, write questions.
Yeah. Stay engaged, like be present. That's thing one. We tend to multitask. Don't multitask. So come prepared, don't multitask. Offer your opinions, be respectful towards other people in the meeting.
I found myself doing what I call playing secretary, which is during the meeting, I will type out notes in a shared space where other people can see them and make sure that those are available. I'll transcribe certain comments, or if there's a link in a Google Meet chat, those are ephemeral.
Right.
Those are going to disappear. Move it to Slack.
Okay. Any more? Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Time to ask another question. Sorry, I need to come closer to you. Sorry, I'm stepping out of the frame, but I need to hear the question.
Well, no, just as a participant, if things are going off track, try to bring it back. Be a contributor.
Okay. Yeah, so as a participant, if people are going off track, help the leader to bring it back on track. Okay, returning back to the frame. Okay, any more questions? Uh-huh.
So if you're in a situation where you're meeting and an interruption is occurring, like someone's interrupting other people, are you then supposed to interrupt them to interject that comment?
Oh, God, what a great question. I think it depends on people's personalities. Like, I'm typically so polite that I don't actually feel comfortable interacting, but interrupting, like, loud, like by speaking. But what I will do is basically I'll try to give them the face, the gestures, etc. But I think it's okay when someone is interrupting and then they are keep talking and talking and talking and talking. You know, you have every right to politely interject and say, hey, Jenny or Steve, hey, let's just make sure that others have a chance to speak. And then whatever else you need to say. Any other thoughts on this, by the way? Do I see a hand there?
It's me again. I want to note that there's also a cultural difference in interruption. There are some areas where you aren't expected in conversation to wait for someone to finish talking. The expectation is that jumping in is a form of active listening. And there are some people that are going to be used to, oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm talking until someone else jumps in, because until someone else jumps in, they don't have an idea.
Thank you. Yeah. So, but I'm glad that you mentioned cultural aspects as well. So developing cultural intelligence, especially if you are working in a multicultural environment. Definitely a helpful thing, because in some cultures, people will not interrupt. All right, I think we are at time, right? Yes, we are. Thank you so, so much for being such a patient and engaged audience. I had fun. I hope it wasn't too boring. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.